welcome to DawnNews English. I have with us Fauzia Yazdani, who would be speaking on the Election Commission of Pakistan. But there is so much that is happening. Just election round the corner with political parties now gearing up. And the question still is whether the assemblies are going to be dissolved before their term expires, or if they're going to be dissolved automatically when the term finishes. Thank you so much for joining us, Fauzia. First, let's start with the dissolution of assemblies. Why do you think, political parties in the government are still thinking whether to dissolve the assemblies earlier than the term? Because it gives time to the Election Commission of Pakistan to prepare?
I think no, that's not the case. That one has to understand it more in the context that we do not follow an election calendar per se as it happens in other countries. So ours is more calculated as per the constitutional requirement, which you just explained in your intro. It could either be completion of term in 60 days and dissolved a day before and 90 days. When it comes to being election commission being prepared, what they need is 54 days. So those 54 days comply with the 60 days if they complete the term and go on there. So I think there is no ambiguity there. When it comes to the why do they want to have a day before to gain more time, that can make sense. But how would they benefit? For me, the make sense could be only if some sort of census result is presented to the federal government and the cabinet for them to decide upon that. That could be one reason. But even that, even if presented, will not make any difference because they cannot be used in upcoming elections for delimitation, which was, if you would remember, one of the reasons for Election Commission to say that why we cannot have elections in Punjab now because we need census results for delimitation. So it's not a linear game anymore.
No, but why do you think, Fauzia? Because the political parties now we've seen them saying it. Some say that it's going to be based on 2017 census, whereas I know some political parties really want the upcoming elections on the new census. How much time will the Election Commission of Pakistan take for new delimitation once the census is done, approved by the cabinet, and everybody has said that, okay, this is the census and we agree upon this?
Okay, now there are 2 or 3 things. Number one, census has to be completed. The clean data has to be presented to the federal government. After federal government, it has to go to the Council of Common Interest, because Council of Common Interest, as you know, is represented by 4 chief ministers, and they approve it. Last census, as you would remember very well, was provisionally approved by the Sindh. Sindh didn't agree, and that's why. But they didn't wanted the election to be delayed, so they allowed that. Fine, let delimitation be on this provisional data and do it. That's one thing. How much time did Election Commission use in last delimitation? Was around 136 days. So approximately, as per the Election Act, it should take around 120 days. It took 136 because it's not only delimitation, which in today's world there are revenue maps, there are geographic maps. So delimitation happens with that. That is one. The other is once they have done the delimitation, they have to put it up for public litigation. So anyone can and kind of litigate, and they have to hold open kacheris. So there is a process. That's why, I don't think now delimitation can happen.
Oh, okay. So this is a long process. But do you think, Fauzia, that without having the new people who could be part of the electoral process, just subtracting them on the pretext that it's going to take time, is it fair? I mean, do you really think with Pakistan's population growing so much every year and not having a chunk of people not participating in the electoral process, how could you have a fair and free election? And also the fact that everyone has the right to vote who is an adult, 18 years of age.
You see, what you're saying is let's separate the two issues. What you are saying is that is electoral franchise. I should have, I should have the right to vote. That is linked to the electoral rolls. So electoral rolls do not have anything to do with delimitation. So electoral rolls are very much there. They are being updated regularly. When the election schedule is announced, it would be part of that. So whoever is eligible over the age of 18 and has applied to the Election Commission of Pakistan to be included in electoral roll would be included. One must remember, in Pakistan, it is not automatic that you turn 18 and you're added into the electoral roll. It does not happen. It doesn't happen that way. So It's my choice, do I want to be added or not? Number one. When it comes to delimitation, it is, I mean, people still, everybody would have the right to be represented, but in the constituencies, in the form of the constituencies that we have now. Like, for example, in Sindh, the distribution of population between rural and urban is an issue. So the geographic boundaries of certain constituencies may change, yet all of them would have right to vote. Where it is more, I think, would have more impact is in the merged districts of Pakistan, because they were last time 7 more seats were added into that. How would that be geographically repositioned rather? And in Punjab, where we expect that seats might go down. So that is. And the last point on that is some of our constituencies have been very big in terms of the voter strength, like 350,000 voters. Whereas you go into the NMD and the voter size is 10,000 or 15,000 or even less. So that disparity also needs to be removed. That Election Commission did last time, but still there are new number of constituencies still having that disparity.
All right. The present government giving the Election Commission the power to announce the elections, like the election date is going to be given by the Election Commission of Pakistan. How do you see this new law?
Okay, actually, this new law has been more politicized, but if we see the electoral history of Pakistan in terms of its application, it has always been there. And then there was Supreme Court judgment as well. It was not always the president, because the president is constitutional head, so he holds more of a ceremonial power, except like this one, which has demonstrated more of his political leaning or liking and making statements and all that. Before that, you would remember that once upon a time somebody wrote outside the President House, Fazal Ilahi Phajje ko reha karo. So as if they are just a prisoner to the presidency. So that's to indicate the role. It's always been Election Commission, and all election commissions used to suggest, president used to say, okay, this can be A or B, and he would take one and go. So this time, actually, there are new narratives. There is trust deficit among stakeholders, institutional stakeholders of the politics as well, electoral stakeholders of the politics as well. So it's more a clashing of that narrative, which is creating the chaos, I would say.
Oh, okay. And also, I would like to discuss that the Election Commission of Pakistan is also a part of, if I'm not mistaken, I do know that they were representing the Election Commission of Pakistan in the parliamentary committee that is formed for the electoral reforms. Again, I would say that it is you have elections just round the corner, and we're going to be like moving very fast now towards it. And just towards the end of the term of the assembly, all the political parties are now sitting to decide what reforms they all need. How do you see this? Because all political parties have been complaining right after elections that anyone who does not win, of course, says that it wasn't a free and fair election. Such I would say reforms in haste. Do you really see that free and fair election then? or
Okay.
no complaints rather from the political party?
Let me take you back 5 years, because the issue with us is we never contextualize what has happened in Pakistan as if the political history and the role of military establishment has just happened. It goes back to 1951. Come on, where our Governor General Ghulam Muhammad at that time was criticized of undermining the civilian supremacy on the military. Fast forward 2018, election happens and there was RTS. We know all what happened to the RTS, but there was
Yeah.
national and international observers in Pakistan as well who kind of commented on what happened to the election. So one of the report which is very contested, right? I won't say sorry, contested, being discussed is EU's election observation, which said that they were in the press conference. The head of the delegation said they were nicely managed. Yes, RTS didn't work, but allegedly military establishment was supporting PTI, and role of judiciary was a political actor. Pause. Come to parliament is whatever happens. There is a government which is elected by the people of Pakistan. Fair enough. I'm not going to comment on being elected or selected debate, because I think that's an irrelevant. They were in the parliament. The opposition, the then opposition, which is the government right now, if you follow all the discussions in the parliament, they kept on saying we need to work on electoral reform, because
Right.
last electoral reform resulted in unification of 17 laws. They do not happen like overnight. An election commission actually is not a core stakeholder into that. It is up to the parliamentarians to define the law. Then they send it to election commission, and election commission is allowed to say that this one contradicts ABC, this one does not. Could you consider that? But the ultimate say rests with the parliamentarians. Unfortunately, the PTI government was not interested in electoral reform. Much that they're saying now, but the committee never met. And now if they are meeting, of course its legitimacy and its interest would be questioned. That's period, because that's how narrative has been structured. Having said that, the majority is still, more, take out 100 something people who are not in the parliament, but rest are still there. So they do have the mandate to legislate. No one can take that away. So if we see it that way, they are doing what they're mandated to do. But would it be taken very nicely? That depends on if they have the ability to, construct a narrative and sell the narrative. Who is at the weaker position and who would benefit out of it?
Okay, Fauzia, I also want to know, because you did mention about the report of EU. There's so much under discussion what is happening. We had our journalists who had visited the EU recently to Brussels. They had gone, and after that, the story that came that EU has not been invited, and all of that. I want to first know the election observers. Once the date has been announced for the election, is that when the election observers are invited, and is that mandatory also?
Okay, now there are two things. I think first we should clarify that there in Pakistan we are kind of used to knee-jerk reactions. So when this story from Mr. Gaylor, who was the team lead for election observation mission to Pakistan 3 times, the story broke suddenly. All guns were on journalists. I think it's not for journalists. Journalists went on an study exchange tours, which has been happening since time immemorial in Pakistan. It happens in all parts of the world, and that's a learning program. So I don't even want to question that. Yes, the interview. I want to. My issue is questioning the timing, and timing also in the context that when we are doing something, we say who, what, when, why, where, and why. Those W's that you swear by. You're a practicing journalist, so what you swear by. So for me, I'm stuck on a why. And let me start with answering your question. The invite for election observation is issued by Election Commission of Pakistan. A.
Okay.
B. It is issued after the election schedule is announced, election schedule is announced within 7 days of the dissolution of the National Assembly. Once that is announced, it's said that yes, we welcome national and international observation missions to come and observe the elections in Pakistan. For international, the invite is issued through Ministry of Foreign Affairs. For national observers, directly they can do it. It is not mandatory for any host country anywhere in the world to invite observers. But if the election management body wants to take a position to say that yes, we are very credible and transparent and all that, so come and observe it. That's the point. The issue for me remains is why. Because this question, the whole thing that EU does not see happening elections in Pakistan on time, stirred a storm in the teacup, as I have written on it as well. Because this is
why you've been writing a lot on this. You've been on social media on this. That's why I thought I must bring this question.
Because my issue is it's a storm in teacup. But there is a message. I'm not worried that who brought the message, because I'm not, I don't want to talk about the journalists who have been the messenger, because they were just doing their job, and which is fair enough for them to do it. For me, the issue is why one member of parliament out of 705 chose to give the statement, who has been here leading the election observation, like, come on, 3 times. He should know our election act like back of his hand. A, so he knew that we do not follow a calendar. B, in March he was told that this is how it would happen and you would be invited. But at that time, our foreign minister of state was also informed that in March, April this year, that EU will not field an election observation mission. So if EU, for internal reasons, this is what we know, if EU was not planning to field an election observation mission, then what was the point to commenting on that? Then the issue is it linked to GSP Plus? And if we link it to their Excellency Dr. Ronika's statement here, then she talks about that there are 27 conventions that are being monitored when we talk about GSP Plus status. GSP Plus has been, one of them is human right and political right under ICSPR. GSP Plus has been rolled over. So that's not for all countries, not only for Pakistan. But the point remains for me is that, when we are talking about parity, if human rights in Pakistan vis-a-vis 9th May and the way it's handled in military court and all that, which should be observed, which should be questioned, and I'm also totally against the military courts for civilian, is an issue which should be looked at. Should one of our member of parliament should also say that what happened in the Greek waters when 600 people died, 300 of them were Pakistanis, wasn't that a human right issue? When 8 hours before, one of the EU satellite mission did know that the ship is in the troubled water, they needed rescue. What were they sent with? They were sent with immigration boats, and they died. So there is a human right, as you say, 1 finger to you, 4 to me. So that's why I want to ask the question. And the other was that he said in the report, in the 2018 election observation report, he said allegedly military establishment was with the PTI. Now he says they were with that. You can't do that. You cannot contradict your own report.
Exactly.
Election observer cannot take a political position or opine before the election. Now he has actually made life difficult for the election expert that would come under EU's mandate to observe election, because they would say, they already have made up their mind, so whatever happened is wrong.
So it will be tough for the election commission over here also. But as you said, it's not mandatory for them.
Yes, it's not mandatory.
Okay. Fauzia, lastly, because, whatever elections that take place in Pakistan, no matter how many times they have taken place, it is the election commission that is always blamed for not holding a free and fair election by political parties that do not get the desired results, what probably they were anticipating. However, having said that, do you really think the Election Commission of Pakistan is an autonomous body and can take its own decisions, keeping in mind the political landscape that we have, where we have a mighty establishment always in one form or the other? are they really free of that might? I'm not talking about this election commission, I'm talking about election commission.
I hear you. Number one, let me make this statement. Election Commission of Pakistan is the institutional fall guy for elections. Period. It has a soft belly. Come and punch it anytime. No one cares. A. B. And this has been true for always. B, we say that, are they free? Are they autonomous enough? Yes, in their structure, yes, they're autonomous enough. But if they do not have financial independence, are they autonomous? Do they have that institutional power? No. 3, if we think our military establishment, the political history of Pakistan, I said it earlier, I'm saying it again. Since 1951, they have played a role. And now, if you come to it now, you can see it, even if they said we do not have any role in electoral politics, but then they're talking about the trade and the new agriculture department and land reforms and agri reform that's going to happen. So what's that? So no, they cannot. The shadows of military establishment or military's role in Pakistan's electoral and political processes is too big. That shadow is not going to go away. The Election Commission of Pakistan has to grab the space inch by inch. What we can say is, since Fakhruddin G. Ibrahim's Election Commission and now Sikandar Sultan's Election Commission is seen to be grabbing that space inch by inch. It would take another 2 elections for them to be as independent and seen to be autonomous as Indian Election Commission, for example, is. That's the strongest in the region. I won't say for Bangladesh and others, because they are also as weak and vulnerable.
All right, we have just like 60 seconds, I'd say. I just want to know what will happen to the overseas Pakistanis, because I just happened to speak to Senator Taj Haider also on this, and he said that, the mechanism for it to be transparent is yet not, we can't just come up with that. And hence, in the upcoming elections, overseas Pakistanis, if they want to vote, they have to come to Pakistan. What happens, Fauzia, around the world? Overseas people are not allowed to vote. Is there no credible mechanism that we can follow?
There are different processes in different countries. In some of the countries, there are preconditions to it. How long you've been away? Do you hold dual nationality? So there are many levers that are put in, or barriers that would say that would enable them or disable them to vote. For me, I think those Pakistanis who are away on a short term or a labor thing, and they come and go and they have the active house here, should be allowed to vote. And earlier, I'm talking about back in 2008 as well, our missions abroad used to get the ballot. Either they could use the postal ballot or the ballot papers, and certain where Pakistani diaspora was bigger, they could go and cast the vote. Then Election Commission tried after 2018 35's by-election voting, and it costed them like tons and tons of money. But you won't believe it, only 7,000 people voted in 33 by-elections that happened after 2018's general election under the PTI, which said that so many. They didn't register, only 7,000. And one of my articles had the figure, and one was costing like anything. So it can be worked out, but it has to be, I think this is wrong to say that they should have a constituency. No, it doesn't. It's not Morocco. The only where overseas citizens have a constituency is the process that we have at Morocco. We are no Morocco. We are 5th populous country in the world. So we cannot, and we have a history of being politically and rigging, gerrymandering. I would rather use the word gerrymandering. There is electoral gerrymandering that happens. Add another layer of overseas Pakistani, when you cannot control the domestic gerrymandering, you are up for disaster. So it has to be taken like step by step, but there are many ways how it can be handled.
Thank you so much for your time. That's all for 20 minutes. Take care and goodbye.